Here's the finished product. Today I'm going to show you how I mounted this ceiling fan in a cathedral ceiling. Okay, here's the room I want to put a ceiling fan in. I guess they call this a cathedral ceiling. Get a back up here. You can see that there's the bed, and directly above the bed I'd like to put the fan. Now if you notice, there's no existing light fixture up there. It's kind of got a sharp point. So I have an idea on mounting a ceiling fan up here. Step one, we have to figure out what the slope of the roof is. So you can kind of see I got a level and a measuring tape, and I'll go off a foot from the wall and measure up and figure out what the rise versus run is. Okay, you can see the level's level. I'm measuring off from the wall, and exactly 1 foot out. I can't do it with one hand holding the camera, but it went up 4 inches. So we had a rise of 4 inches, 1 foot out. So we open up our calculator, make sure that we're in the scientific view, and we take our rise 4 divided by our run, which is 12. That is equal to a 0.333. So we want to get the inverse tangent of that. So you can see where it says tan to the -1, and that gives us 18.43, let's just call it 18.5 degrees. So my plan is to put some blocks of wood up in the crevice, up on the top there. So I'll have a small one, a larger one, and a larger one. Probably 3 pieces of wood, each one being 3/4 of an inch. So I got 1 by 6, which is really a 1/4 of an inch plane on each side. So it's 3/4 by 5.5 wide. So anyway, and there'd be like maybe a little gap in the middle here. So looking at this, okay, if we have a 3/4 of an inch thick wood, and if the run versus rise ratio is 12 divided by 4, 3/4 by that, that's equal to 2.25. So each one of these things is 2.25, and then another 2.25, so that's 4.5 inches. Each row will be 4.5 inches wider than the previous row. And so anyway, so we can see that if I have 1 inch along the top, that'll make this 5.5 inch. Then this one will be 10 inches at the base, and then the base of this one will be 14.5. So let's give it a try. So here you can see the piece of wood. It's a 6 foot long piece of wood, 0.75 by 0.55. So it's a nominal 1 by 6. And it's a nice piece of pine. Cost $19. You know, for $27, I could have got the same size piece of wood in red oak. And I almost got it. And but I figured out nobody's going to see this. I'm going to stain it, make it look really nice, and nobody's going to be able to know it's really nice oak. And here's the box we got for the fixture. Now these are special boxes that are rated for a fan. You see how it has this big stud, this big screw-in stud here, and this big screw-in stud here. You can also get them in the 1/2 inch high round configuration. But like I say, these are rated for fans, so these are extra strong, and instead of being 85 cents, these things cost like $3 or something like that. So it's a much stronger, heavier duty box, and they call it a 4-inch box. From here to here it's 4 inches, but it's really like about 3.75 across. But let's just call it a 4-inch hexagonal box. Okay, well, cutting these cuts is going to be kind of a drag, because I said 18.5 degrees, but really we're talking 71.5. And of course, all my equipment only goes up to like 45 degrees. That's the maximum cut. So I'm going to have to stand it up on end in order to get my 18.5 degrees. So that's going to be quite a bit of fun. So let's try this. It's not going to be easy. I set the table saw at 18.5 degrees. And let's see what we can do here. I've had some second thoughts on doing this, maybe a little more safely. And so I moved the fence over to 1.5 inches. And of course I have a 1.5 inch thick piece of 2 by 6 here. And I'm going to clamp this thing on here. I'm going to use this as a guide, just because it was just too fiddly and just too dangerous. And when you have spinning blades spinning around there. And of course we got to make sure that the clamp is high enough to where it doesn't hit the blade, and make sure that nothing interferes, and think it through twice. You know, run a dry run with this thing off and just make sure everything's going to clear, and then we're going to run it. There. Beautiful flame cut, nice angle, and it comes right down to a point right there. Just perfect. Look at how nicely this turned out. Boy, I tell you, that math stuff, boy, all the math, everything just added up perfect. Well, we determine the center mark of the wood and then draw a pattern of the box. Okay, we got our template, and now I'll just drill a starter hole, and then that'll be I'll be able to take a saber saw and cut out the hole here. Okay, I got the work clamped down. We got a starter hole. Now I'll take a saber saw and cut out the template, or cut out the hole. And of course the clamps are in the way. And I cut the hole and it seems to fit in there nice and snug. Okay, well here's the finished product. There's the box in there. And so now we just got to take these 3 pieces of wood, glue them together, and maybe find a secondary way to fasten them together, and sand them up and stain it and varnish it, and it'll be ready to go. We used a little bit of white glue, actually a lot of white glue, and we got this thing all glued together. And let's just wipe off any that seeps up out of the edges. Important thing is to get all aligned, because that thing is going to be glued together and it's going to be a big giant solid block in another couple hours. Well, here it is. The glue is all set. Everything looks good. I gave a little sanding, although I'm a little worried. You can kind of see where I got a little carried away with the glue, and the glue kind of dripped down here and kind of discolored here, and it might not take stain. My grand idea of staining this thing might not be too good. I stained it, but this just looks awful. On the side, it's not too unreasonable. Of course, the top, that's not going to be seen. But, yeah, you can kind of see all those sand marks in there. I guess I was a little rough with the sandpaper, because some of the glue came in there, and there's some pieces of wood that stuck down after I clamped it from the piece I used to clamp against it. And gosh, what the hell? I mean, how did I do this? Anyway, hey, plan B is painting this thing white so it'll match the walls, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, well, let's take a look at this baby. It seems to be all done. And I just thought I would show it with the box and everything. And so I took, originally I just took 2 wood screws and put them through here. Put nuts and bolts. Got 2 small nuts and bolts going through here. And those nuts and bolts, of course, you can see the nuts and bolts right there. So I have some screws all in line to go to the rafter. So I put a countersunk screw hole here and a countersunk screw hole here. And then for real strength, I actually put some holes right here. And these go through the metal box. So if I have some big long screws that go into the rafter here and it goes through the metal box is going to transfer the weight to the fan, so we don't have to worry about the integrity of this piece of wood holding everything together. We're going to have this thing really solid. So anyway, that's way overkill, but you might as well do it right. Okay, we're in the attic, and here you can see the top of the cathedral ceiling from the top here. Down here is a bunch of wires where I'm going to be fishing a wire up that comes down to the switch along the master bedroom wall. Okay, the first stud right there is at 2 feet. The second stud over there is at 4 feet, and the last stud over there is at 6 feet. So I have to figure out whether I want to go 4 feet or 6 feet. Here we are, here's the top of the crown ceiling. I put a mark right at 6 feet. And there's a couple different ways to find the stud. Now, we've got ourselves a stud finder here. Well, first of all, let me show you the most basic way, the knocking method. Here I got nice and solid there, nice and hollow there, solid there, hollow there. So we know the stud's somewhere in here. Now I got the stud sensor, finder, So according to that, it's right about there. Oops, well, I got to get this on fit. According to that, it's right about there. And the real way to do it is with the nail. Now I put this nail in here and it hit wood. I put the nail here, boom, it went through. So I know that the edge is right around here. So right about there, which is actually what the studs finder said, probably about the center. So anyway, that's where I'm going to go for the center on this thing. Okay, I got my 3/4 inch drill and I drill a hole. Kind of see here the studs just about right in there. You can see the edge of the wood. See the edge of the wood? The center of the wood's probably right about where my thumbnail is. You can see the wood in there, and then I drilled off to the angle so I can run the wire through. To the box, I got 2.5 inch long fine thread drywall screws I might use, and then I've even got stronger deck screws. And anyway, we'll see here. Here we go. All mounted up there, went very easily. I just gave it a fresh coat of paint. So you can see the screws. I just painted over the screws there because I didn't like the black screws. But here you can see those nice solid exterior grade ones. So those are in solid wood. And then, of course, they're holding up the metal box and then all the way to be in the metal box. And I probably didn't even need these 2 extra screws. But it's kind of nice to have them in there, make sure that nothing will rock or shake when the fans vibrate in there. If you notice, I got a big coil of wire going up through here. And this isn't the actual wire I'm going to use. I shoved about 6 feet up there so I have something to grab onto to fish the 14 gauge wire that I really want to use. I still have to run that through the walls and up through the attic. And then I'll just tie it onto the end of this and then pull this down and it'll fish it down through the hole to make finding the hole easier. So, so far, so good. Well, I found an electrical switch I didn't like that goes to like a front floodlight. No point in having that in a master bedroom, so I capped that thing off. And now I got a new spot to put the new fan. And in the top here, there's a knockout, although I could have taken out that knockout up there or what have you. Okay, here we're up in the attic. Here's the top of the wall. You can see where all the wires come up, and here's a big problem here. It's going to be a little tough, so I got to go through this little hole right here and somehow get my wire up. Okay, I went to Harbor Freight and spent $10 for this fiberglass fish set. You can kind of see it comes with a hook and a flexible eyelet on the end. And hopefully I can use this to run the wire up through the wall. That's what they're designed for. Well, I learned a valuable lesson. You shouldn't go from the bottom, push up to the top. I went up to the ceiling and just put the fish down there, wiggled around. Then I felt it give, and boom, it went right down through the hole. So here's our little fish, the end of the fish, and the rest of it, the other pieces of it is up in the attic. And now I'm just going to snake up a piece of wire, and it'll be that easy. Well, mission accomplished. We got the wire up there. And it goes up that way, and that's the hard part. Now we just have to wait for the fan to show up tomorrow, and I'll hook it up. Here is the Emerson Carrera CF784 60-inch ceiling fan in brushed steel. Now this looks like kind of a mess, but don't be intimidated. What I did is I trimmed off my wires so that they were a good length. I got out in the middle, then I gave it to where I have like an extra 6 inches. So, and then there's even some stuff in the wall, got a little bit of extra. Now, with all wiring, you always hook up ground to ground. So there's happened to be a wire coming out, a copper wire that's hooked up to all the rest of these copper wires. All the bare copper wires are all somehow hooked together to the same ground system. So I twisted the ground to the ground. And then I had a white wire coming out. By the way, here's my wire coming out just to see what's going on. And I had the white wire, so there's a whole bunch of whites. So all the whites go to all the whites. And then we just got to worry about the black, the hot. And the way it works is one of these other switches, like this switch right here, you can kind of see how there's a whole bunch of wires hooked together that's got that black wire. That's a hot. So I'm just going to hook up to this switch to get the hot. it's going to go to my new switch, and then the output of my new switch will be going to this black wire. So it'll switch the hot to the load, which in our case is our fan. Here we are at the electrical box. I took the supplied hanger up here and set up to where I have the open side here to where I can just hook up inside here and come on in. And I got all the wires up out of the way because next thing I need to do is I need to lift the hanger ball up in here and hang this thing. So we got to get all these wires out of the way. So anyway, I took the copper wire coming out of the wall and hooked that up to the 2 green wires. I got that all tucked up out of the way already. The white wire coming from the wall is going to the white wire going down the tube. White always goes to white. And then on the black, the line side coming in from the wall, the ceiling, I got the black wire and the blue wire hooked up here. Of course, the blue wire is for the light, so it's not really connected to anything, but you might as well hook it up there anyway. I have to point out an important little detail and hang this thing. You see on the back of this bracket here, there's a groove, and in the ball, there's a little tab. So after I put this on here, I just rotate it around and snap, it popped in. And now that's an anti-rotation thing, and this thing cannot twist anymore. Thanks for watching. My wife loves the new ceiling fan. I will have a review of the Emerson Carrera fan in just a little bit here if you want to take a look at that. Post any questions you might have in the comments section. I'll be glad to respond to them.